Ladies and gentlemen, this is the second part to the data center story. I wanted to make a quick note. At the end, you'll hear a thing that says part 5, and this is a short conversation that I had with Tucker. Tucker is the individual or the pest control. And he promised to do an interview with me next week sometime. So that should be interesting. He had some stuff that he really wanted to talk about, some of the places that he used to work. Now, I hope you enjoy this. I am trying to get these out as fast as I can, but this is the first of the month and there's quite a bit of stuff going on, and I am trying my best to set up a bunch of equipment and trying to keep my kid happy and everybody from being sick. Stay paranoid, my friends. Please enjoy the story.
I want to be straight with you about the order things happened, because it would be easy to dress this up into something cleaner than it was. It wasn't clean. It was a Tuesday afternoon, blinds down, doing what every night shift guy in the world does with a Tuesday afternoon, trying to convince my body it was actually night. I woke up around 2 with the specific feeling of a room that has somebody else in it. Nobody was in it. I want that on the record too. I checked the closet, the bathroom, under the bed like a kid, flashlight and all, in my own house in broad daylight, because that's what the feeling does to you. Makes you check the places a monster couldn't possibly fit, just so you can tell yourself you checked. The television turned itself on at 2:47. I know the time because I looked at my phone right after, the way you check a clock right after something startles you. It wasn't tuned to a channel. Just gray static, the old kind, before it cut to picture. I'm not going to describe all of it because I don't have all of it. It didn't come in order and it didn't come slow. It came the way a bad dream comes back to you the moment after you wake up. In pieces, out of sequence, more feeling than image. A skyline I didn't recognize, folding sideways into itself. Water where a highway used to be. A crowd running in a direction that didn't make sense, toward something instead of away from it. No sound. That was the worst part, somehow, the not having any sound. Just color and motion and a silence so complete I could hear my own pulse in my ears, and my pulse was going way too fast for a man sitting still on his own couch. It lasted, I don't know, 90 seconds, 10 minutes. When it stopped, my ears were ringing, and there was a thin line of blood on my collar, and I honestly couldn't tell you if it came from my nose or from biting my own tongue without noticing. Here's the part 1 still can't explain clean, so I'll just tell you what happened and let you make of it what you want. I needed to go to work. Not wanted. Needed, in the way you need air, in the way that skips right past your better judgment and goes straight to your legs. I was off that night. Wasn't due back for 18 hours. Didn't matter. I had my boots on before I'd decided to put them on. I was in the truck before I'd decided to be in it. I called it a lifeline in my head on the drive over. Didn't look at that word too hard. Didn't want to. My badge shouldn't have worked off shift. It worked anyway. Green light, soft click. Like the door had been holding itself open for me. Nobody asked what I was doing there. Nobody was there to ask. I went straight to Bay 7 because of course I did, and I stood in front of that 6-inch window same as always, except this time I didn't have to guess at what was on the other side of it. It wasn't pictures anymore. It wasn't sound either. It was closer to a certainty landing in me from somewhere outside my own head. The way you just know your own name, the way you don't have to work to remember it. And what landed was simple. Now, you have a way and I don't. There's a panel by the base of every bay. Plastic cover, red lettering, the kind of thing you get shown once during onboarding and never think about again. Manual emergency vent. Under it, smaller. Do not operate without authorization. I'd walked past that cover 400 times. Never once had a reason to look at it as anything other than scenery. I was looking at it now like it was the only object in the room. And I want to be honest with you because I promised myself I would be all the way through this. I don't know if what's in that box needs saving, or if it's just very, very good at sounding like it does. I don't know if those pictures were a warning, or a threat wearing a warning's clothes. I've turned it over both ways, standing there with my hand an inch off that plastic cover, and I still don't have an answer. The thump was matching my pulse again. Slower now, almost gentle, like it was waiting to see what kind of man I turned out to be. Pulled it. I'm not going to pretty that up with a lot of reasoning, because there wasn't a lot of reasoning in it. I'd like to tell you I weighed it. The visions, the pictures, everything Tucker told me about a room the rats wouldn't go near, everything that should have added up to leave that cover exactly where I found it. I'd like to tell you I thought it through and made a choice like a rational man. What actually happened is I stopped being able to tell the difference between its need and mine, and I pulled it. Here's what didn't happen. No door swung open. No alarm. No shape unfolding itself out of the cold and thanking me in some voice I'd spend the rest of my life trying to forget. None of the things I'd already pictured, lying awake, working out how this was supposed to go. What happened is the compressor stopped. 6 months on that floor, and I had never once heard that room without the thump underneath it. It had been there so long I'd stopped counting it as sound and started counting it as silence. The good kind, the kind that means everything's running the way it's supposed to. And then it wasn't there, and the quiet that came down in its place was the loudest thing I have ever heard in my life. I stood there waiting for something to happen in the room. It took me longer than I'm proud of to understand that it was happening in me. The thump hadn't stopped. It had just stopped being out there. I could feel it behind my own ribs, exactly where my own pulse lives, going at exactly the rate it had been matching all along, except there was nothing left to match anymore. There was only the one rhythm now, and it was mine, and I could not tell you where the line was supposed to be between those two facts. I've gone back over the word warning 100 times since, and I still don't know if that's what those pictures were. Maybe they weren't a threat. Maybe they were just the last thing it had to show me before it stopped needing a window between us at all. I don't know if that makes it kinder or worse. I've stopped being able to tell those apart too. I walked out of that building a little before 6. First real daylight I'd seen hit that parking lot in 6 months, and it didn't feel like anything at all. My badge went green at the door before I lifted my hand to it, like it already knew I wasn't the same visitor it had been letting in and out all this time. Tucker was out by the loading dock, early for once, slingshot slack in his hand, flat of soda cans still sealed at his feet. He didn't take a single shot the whole time I watched him. Just stood there and let me walk to my truck, and there wasn't a thing paranoid in his face while he did it. Paranoid is a man who thinks something might be true. This was a man who already knew. I heard, after that, he told someone else the same thing he never said to me, that he'd seen that exact walk before. More than once. Always from about that same distance. And never once close enough to do a thing about it. I still go to work every night. Badge still works. Boots still fit. I just don't get cold anymore. And some mornings, driving home with the sun coming up, I catch myself hoping the next one they hire is smart enough to leave that cover alone. I know they won't be. I wasn't. Part 5. This is a short conversation I had with Tucker. He said he would do an interview with me later this week. I never told the new guy the whole of it. Didn't seem like the kind of thing you hand somebody their first week. But he's not the first week anymore, and I'm getting old, and somebody ought to know it besides me. I think this place, these boxes, whatever they're really cooling down there, I think it's bringing something in. Something that gets into people the same slow way it got into the rats. One at a time. Quiet about it. A man doesn't wake up different. He just wakes up a little more like the last version of himself every day, until one morning there's nothing left doing the waking up but the thing that moved in. I don't know what it wants. Stopped pretending I do. All I know for certain is rats. And a hungry rat will chew through damn near anything to get where the food is. Concrete, wire, its own kind if it has to. There's exactly one way to deal with something built like that. On its own terms. Not yours. You want to know how I know that so sure? Fine. I'll tell it once and then I'm done telling it. 68. I wasn't infantry. I went down the holes. Tunnel rat, they called us, and they weren't being clever. You went in because you were small enough to fit and dumb enough to volunteer, pistol in one hand, a flashlight you couldn't use in the other because light down there just told the man waiting for you exactly where to put the knife. I spent 11 hours once in a flood chamber under a rice paddy, water up to my chest, waiting out a patrol moving through the gallery above me. Couldn't move. Couldn't so much as shift my weight because sound carries different down there. It doesn't fade, it just goes and finds a wall to live in. So I stood in the black and I waited, and somewhere around hour, for I understood I wasn't alone in that water. They were already there when I got there. That's the thing nobody tells you. They don't come running to the noise. They're already sitting quiet in the dark, waiting on whatever's coming to them. Same as you. One of them rode against my collarbone for I don't know how long. I could feel its heart going fast, the way theirs do. And I remember thinking, real clear, real calm, in a way that scared me worse than the patrol did. That little heart wasn't scared of me at all. It had already decided I was just more tunnel. Weather. Something to wait out. I made it back up past dawn. Man in my squad asked what happened down there. Told him nothing happened. First lie I told in that war I actually believed while I was saying it. I've thought about that rat more than I've thought about anything else that happened over there. Because it's the only lesson that's ever done me any good since. Fear runs out. Has to, the body won't pay that bill forever. But calm, real calm, the kind that thing had riding my collarbone in the dark, that doesn't run out. That just waits. That outlasts you. So when I say there's one way to handle their kind, I mean it the way that rat meant it. Not with fear. Not with hate, though God knows I've got plenty put by. You handle it patient. You handle it quiet. You let it think it's got all the time in the world. And then you knock it out and you scoop it up before it ever gets the chance to learn your heartbeat the way I learned that one's. That's the job. Same as it ever was. I just wish to hell somebody had told me that going in.